Breaking news into First Take this morning. After 15 years in the league, LaMarcus Aldridge announced he is retiring from the NBA, writing on social media that he played his last game on April 10th with an irregular heartbeat. Aldridge saying in a statement, quote, "Though I'm better now, when I felt my heart that night, I was still one of the scariest things I've experienced." I just want to add, he's been previously diagnosed with Wilf-Parkinson-White syndrome, and he's undergone multiple ablation procedures since the 06-07 season. He'll finish his career with 7 All-Star appearances. And gentlemen, obviously this is surprising news because he just joined the Nets and was looking to get a ring this season. Stephen A., your reaction to LaMarcus Aldridge retiring?
Well, certainly when I was critical of these guys not playing in games, particularly last night, I certainly had no idea of an irregular heartbeat. So God bless him and his family. I'm glad that he's safe. I'm glad that he's okay. And clearly he's making the right decision, because what he's saying is it's scared the living hell out of him in terms of, how his heart was pumping the other night. And it was, with the irregularity that obviously he's alluding to, it scared him so much that that's not something he wants to experience again. And usually when people are feeling that way, particularly as it pertains to the heart, they usually equate it with having a near-death experience. And so he talked about putting his family first now, as opposed to basketball, because he spent 15 years putting his basketball first. I remember his 2 years in Portland from 2013 to 2015. Obviously, he spent a lot more time than that there, but those 2 particular years when he was averaging 23 a game, he was big time and considered one of the key ingredients or one of the key guys out there that can make some things happen when he ultimately went to San Antonio. But the game has changed so much that obviously it's affected his potency, because it's a guard-oriented game. And Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and those boys has just changed the trajectory of the game. Things have changed. So, again, he's not what he used to be. We understand it, even though he could still play. He was a damn good player, and that's what we will remember him as. And he was a good guy as well. I mean, you didn't run across anybody that really had anything negative to say about him as a person. So you got to give credit where credit's due. Not that that matters, because sometimes people lie and things of that nature. And they excoriate folks that don't deserve to be excoriated. But in his case, you're not going to find anybody doing that. He was well respected and well liked throughout the league. So I'm just glad he's safe and sound, and he gets to go on with his life and look forward to his life after basketball. I'm just happy that he's okay.
Yeah, LaMarcus Aldridge, the main thing is that he's not putting himself in extra jeopardy. And that's good. He had an excellent career as an excellent player. Not just a 7-time All-Star, Stephen A. and Molly, 2-time All-NBA second team, 3-time All-NBA third team. That's 5 selections altogether, All-NBA for second or third team. And that's really quite excellent. And the only reason that I hesitate to say he was a great player is really not to do with him as much as it has to do with Stephen A., as you mentioned, the game changing during his career. LaMarcus Aldridge would have been even better in almost any other era. Even in this one, he was totally excellent, 7-time All-Star. But in any other one, he'd have been even better. And it's a shame that a guy who didn't get to win a championship was on a team where, if healthy, probably would have gotten his ring this year, but obviously has a serious condition that he needs to pay attention to. And as you said, Stephen A., wish the best to LaMarcus Aldridge and his family. And the good news is he made this decision instead of further jeopardizing his health. Good for him, and it was a tremendous career.
Yep. All the best to him and his family. And he said the end of the statement, you never know when something is going to end, so make sure you enjoy it to the fullest. I think we've all learned that this year, and he certainly did. He had an incredible career. And putting health and family first seems to be the right decision, and he's just 35. He's got his whole life ahead of him. Fellas, we will take a quick commercial break. When we return on First Take, here's what I got for you. Oh, we are not going to take a commercial break. Actually, gentlemen, we're going to continue on here.
And you don't have James Harden and still in all with Kyrie Irving and Joe Harris and guys like that. Not to say Kyrie is in that category, because he's in the category of James Harden and KD, but you get what I'm saying. The fact that the Sixers needed to pull Joel Embiid off the bench because they surrendered a 21-2 run to let Brooklyn back into the game. I think that is a bad sign. I'd also like for the record to show that the Philadelphia crowd, remember, I worked in Philadelphia for 17 years as a writer for the Philadelphia Inquirer and ultimately a columnist the last 10 years or so of my career there. I have to tell you something. It is a huge mistake. As knowledgeable as Sixers fans are, it is a huge mistake for them to be chanting that KD, sucks. That's what they said. KD, that's what they said about Kevin Durant. He was on the sideline looking at them like, dog sense. What the hell are they talking about me for? You're going to rue the day you do that, because we can say a lot of things about Kevin Durant. The one thing we cannot say is that this brother can't ball. We certainly can't say that. This dude is one of the top 2 players on the planet Earth when he is healthy. There's no doubt in my mind. And for the Philadelphia 76ers to know that the likelihood is that you're going to have to go up against that brother, and for the fans to be chanting at him that way, that's not going to bode well for them either. There's a price that's going to be paid for that. And I think the combination of those 2 things, as far as I'm concerned, left the night, for me, not that great for the Philadelphia 76ers, despite the win. I think that 2 messages were sent. One to KD that they're going to pay for, and the other was the fact that without KD and James Harden, they still almost came back and beat the 76ers. I think it's something that works against the 76ers on this particular day.
I'm not disappointed by the 76ers. I'm going to get to your points in a second, Stephen A. There's things to say about that, but I'm not just, listen, they were controlling the whole game between like 8-ish and 14-ish points most of the time, right? Like that's basically what happened. And they know they're playing a team who's playing a second of back-to-back. And they knew coming in, no James Harden, and then come to find no Kevin Durant. And they're controlling the game. And as you said, Embiid's on the bench. And, and then, by the way, Kyrie comes out of the game. The game's over, right? This is human nature. This happens in basketball. They took their foot off the gas. They figured the game's over. And then all of a sudden, whoa, game's not over. And then the game was over. Then they're like, oh, okay, let's put this, got within 3 points. Then, okay, let's put this away. And they did. You never got the sense that they were going to lose the game. Now, Kyrie didn't come back in the game. Had Kyrie come back in, maybe they win. But it did not escape my attention that Philly was controlling the game with Kyrie in. They made the run without Kyrie. And as spectacular as Kyrie has been this year, I think if Brooklyn would have had James Harden, maybe it's a little different. Like, let's get rid of this idea that the Sixers have any chance to beat a fully healthy Brooklyn team. They don't. They have no shot to do it. No one does. If this team is fully healthy, no one's got a shot to win. So it's not like, well, because the Sixers struggled down the stretch with Brooklyn, then in the moment of truth, if Brooklyn's healthy, maybe the Sixers won't be able to beat them. We already know they won't be able to beat them if Brooklyn's healthy. By the way, apologies to Embiid, because Brooklyn has no answer for him. He's going to get his, but that's one guy on that level. And Ben Simmons they got 3 dudes like that. Now to KD. Stephen A., you think that had Philadelphia been chanting, KD is great, he wouldn't be giving them the business later on in the playoffs? KD is going to get his regardless if they say he stinks, if he's awesome, whatever it is. Let the fans chant what they want. I love it. And of course, boo and insult the visiting star. What's wrong with that? That's like, that happens all the time.
Well, there's a lot, there's a lot of things that you don't get about basketball. So I don't mind teaching you and giving you lessons. Like, for example, when you bring up KD and you say, what's different than he's going to do? What's different? So what? What if they chanting KD's great, KD's great? He's still going to give them the business. Remember, one of the things that we continuously bring up about KD, what he could do if he wanted to, but what he chooses not to do. One of the things about Kevin Durant is that he's not only phenomenal as a basketball player, it's because of his efficiency. This is a dude that doesn't just drop 30, but it's on better than 50% shooting. It's on better than 40% shooting from 3-point range. Well, what if he got aggressive? What if they sat up there and he said, I'm rolling into Philadelphia. I remember what they were saying about me. Instead of shooting 20 shots, let me shoot 30. You understand? Instead of distributing the basketball and playing the right way, let me remind them of who the hell I am. I'm just saying, no matter what we see from him, with Kyrie, that's different. He's a killer. With James Harden, particularly the James Harden that was the league scoring champion over the last 3 years. That's different. But with KD, one of the things that we don't always get is a level of aggression and assertiveness. Yes, he plays the right way. Yes, he's unselfish. Yes, he's efficient, but we don't see him ultra aggressive. So the point is that if you tinker on getting him to be more aggressive and really to be assertive and come at you, it could be nightmarish in a lot more ways than we haven't even seen yet. That's all I mean by that.
Well, I mean, okay, but that's one dude. Those points count the same if the ball's distributed or if one dude is getting those points. And speaking of that, my big takeaway out of this game is this, Stephen A. Kyrie Irving, I think, has to show at some point that when he's the only one of the big three there, the team functions better with him on the floor than with him off the floor. Stephen A., I'm not saying that definitively last night shows they're better without him. No, of course not. Because as I said, it's human nature. The Sixers are controlling the whole game. Oh, now Kyrie is out too. We got this. And everyone else on the Nets fought hard. Good for them, especially on the second of back-to-back on the road. Good for them. But still, it's happened too many times in Kyrie's career when he is the solo star, because he's an amazing player. The team too often functions better with him off the floor. It should never be that way. I got the distinct impression last night that if it were James Harden on the Nets and the Sixers were playing like that, the Nets might have won that game if it was Harden. Harden's not more talented than Kyrie. There's no reason Kyrie should not be able to have that same effect.
But we don't disagree there. I mean, I look at Kyrie and I look at James Harden. They bring two different things to the table because on the basketball all the damn time, it was necessary. And it was playing for a coach of Mike D'Antoni that allowed that to happen. In the case of Steve Nash in Brooklyn, it's a little bit different. And when you look at the pieces around you, what James Harden is doing is showing his greatness because